There's an interesting story over at Raw Story right now that suggests that Donald Trump is actually doing better than the polls indicate. And this polling company came up with this idea that maybe when people are, and they were wondering, why is it that when Donald Trump is polled online, he consistently polls over 40% of the vote? When he's polled over the telephone, he consistently polls around 30% of the vote, or a little above 30%. Why is that? And so they set up 3 polls that they ran at the exact same time. So there was no variable of news stories or anything about Donald Trump specifically. One where they actually called people and asked them if they would vote for him. These were Republican primary voters. One where they called people. The second that was online, entirely online. And a third one that, as I recall, was a hybrid of the two, looking for what's going on. And what they found was, actually, it was more sophisticated than that. A traditional telephone survey with live interviewers and both landlines and cell phones, an online survey, and an interactive dialing technique that dialed people by telephone and asked them to respond to recorded questions by hitting buttons on their phone. So they know that they're getting real, particularly with this last one, the interactive dialing technique, where it's basically machine polling, but it's using telephones. So you know that it's not, just enthusiastic users multiply clicking to vote, right? And what they found was that, sure enough, Trump polls about 9% better when people are anonymous than when they're talking to a human being. So then they dug into the data and they found that among white working class voters, there was no difference between the online poll and the in-person telephone poll. But among college-educated white Republican primary voters, they would tell the machine that they would vote for Donald Trump, but they wouldn't tell the human. They were too embarrassed to admit it. And so what they're concluding is that Trump actually probably has about 9% more support than any of the polls are measuring among the white Republican base. I suspect that, I was assuming that what they were going to say is that what they were measuring was enthusiasm, because Bernie does radically better in online polls than he does in telephone polls. And I think that what that is measuring is enthusiasm. But nobody has done a similar polling strategy on the Democratic primary candidates, so we don't know. We just don't know. But I think that, elections are not won by bringing in the middle, which has been the DLC, DNC third way strategy since 1987, since Al Fromm essentially invented it and brought Bill Clinton in on it. You really don't win elections by bringing out the middle. You win elections by turning out the base. And you turn out the base by promising them, as Obama did in 2008, that he was going to blow up NAFTA, for example. That brought out the base. Or as Bill Clinton did when he campaigned in 1992 on his New Covenant speech, saying that he was going to give health care to everybody in America, and he was going to fulfill FDR's promises, and he was going to bring back the unions. None of the things that he didn't do. But, there's such a contrast between both Clinton and Obama on the promises that they made when they were campaigning and how they governed. And you can argue that some of that's simply because there were Republicans in Congress and they blocked them. And that would be true. Or you could argue that, they didn't want to defy the interests that were funding their campaigns. And I think that would be true, too. But it's an interesting phenomena. And I'm wondering, whether Hillary is being undermeasured, too. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.